You think only the bottom class falls into poverty? You're wrong. What's truly terrifying is those who were once in a comfortable or even moderately wealthy position. Many have fallen back to square one overnight, even becoming heavily indebted. I might really not be able to survive. I'm from Buzhou, Anhui, born in 1997, 28 years old. When I was doing well, I had nearly 10 million yuan in assets. I owned 3 restaurants, a mask factory, a celebrity incubation company, 2 condos, and 2 cars. Now, I'm bankrupt, penniless, and a debtor with $340,000 in debt. You can never see the economic risks of this country from the official statistics of the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP claims that the non-performing loan rate of Chinese households is less than 3%, lower than 4.8% in the US. This means that all risks are controllable. However, on June 17th of this year, Bloomberg reported that by the end of 2025, among China's 1.4 billion adult population, as many as 10.6%, about 110 million people, are already in debt default, with accumulated personal non-performing loans exceeding 2.22 trillion yuan. In this episode, we focus on the more than 100 million people burdened with heavy debt. China's Civil Affairs Bureau is where marriages and divorces are registered. In recent years, more and more people have come to divorce. Faced with such couples, the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau usually advises them not to divorce. If there really is no conflict between you two, I suggest you try to make it work. I think the man isn't incapable. He seems to be an engineer. Where did you get the idea that he's an engineer? Hurry up and sign the papers. They're about to close. It's not my fault you're unemployed. If you keep causing trouble, I'll be unemployed too. The woman in the video posted her divorce proceedings at the Civil Affairs Bureau on social media. The man in the video is an HR manager at a major Beijing internet company, earning $6,000 a month. However, he was laid off. The ex-wife stated that the key issue is that her husband suffered investment losses in middle age, losing a lot of money. Mediation by the Civil Affairs Bureau was unsuccessful. The 2-year-old child was awarded to the woman, and it seems the man cannot pay child support. Many Chinese families have been torn apart by debt. Look, the man in the video is from Dalian, a city in northeast China. In your 56 years, is there anything that you remember most vividly, or that had the biggest impact on you? Debt. Debt? Yes. What caused the debt? Doing some other business outside. Can I ask how much the debt was? Several million yuan. That much? It wasn't much at first, but it snowballed. Have you paid off your debt now? No, I can't. I have no income. Aren't you working now? How much can you earn working? How did you get those millions of yuan in debt? The main issue is the interest plus the penalty interest, primarily due to bank policies. When blogger Hu Chenfeng interviewed this man, his uncle clearly accepted and became accustomed to his debt. He said there are many people like him in China now. So what are your plans for the future? I'll pay it back slowly. I'll pay it back as much as I can. If I can't, then so be it. What can they do to me? The uncle has likely reviewed his failures countless times. He doesn't feel his debt is entirely his fault. He knows that the red system and the times created a large number of debtors like him. His marriage has also broken down, but he seems to think it's not a big deal either. There are too many examples like this. For us, our abilities aren't particularly outstanding. We also have some ideas, so it's easy to stumble and no need to feel embarrassed. Are you living alone or with someone? 2 people. With your spouse? No. What wife? We're divorced. I have an older sister who's paralyzed, 2 years older than me. I have been taking care of her. This money could also be used for your living expenses. It won't solve anything. It's not very meaningful, just a drop in the ocean. You might think it's a lot when you count it, but when you actually need it, it's gone in no time. Over the years since I was speculating in real estate, the price of property would go up today and tomorrow, making me feel like my money was constantly increasing. But when you stumbled, all the money was gone in an instant. After experiencing this process of rising and falling, the amount of money doesn't matter anymore. The uncle's calmness might be because his situation isn't the worst. There are many debtors worse off than him. Friends, I really can't take it anymore. I absolutely can't take it anymore. I'm still that woman who's bankrupt and has over $450,000 in debt. Bankruptcy has burdened my family, made my children suffer. Now I can only run errands alone. What would you do if you were over $3 million in debt? Today is January 11th, 2026. I am Lu Donglin, chairman of Suzhou Donglin Decoration Engineering Company. I really can't take it anymore. Just now, when I was about to end it all, a phone call from my wife woke me up. I instantly sobered up. I urge my colleagues, wake up too. I swear I will never do engineering again in my life. In 2025, the number of people on China's personal credit default blacklist reached 8.5 million. In 2020, it was only 5.7 million, an increase of nearly 50% in 5 years. If one person can't repay their debts, the whole family suffers. Once a Chinese citizen is included in the list of dishonest debtors, the court will issue a restriction order on high consumption, involving the use of transportation, accommodation and entertainment, education, and insurance and financial management. Loans, financing, and credit cards are restricted. Online shopping platforms may be limited. One cannot serve as a legal representative, director, supervisor, or senior manager of a company. And travel abroad may also be restricted. However, these severe penalties cannot stop a large number of people from choosing to become defaulters, because they have no other way out. I have decided to default on my mortgage too. I was so stupid. With over $300,000 in debt, I was still trying to hold on to a condo I've never lived in, over 60 kilometers from my current workplace, unfinished and vacant for 5 or 6 years. Looking back now, I was incredibly wrong. The woman in the video says, "Even after my mortgage was overdue, I couldn't bear to give up the property. Now I understand. What was I even thinking? I used my life-saving money to fill a bottomless pit, so she decided to stop paying the mortgage. If she lost the condo, let it be. At least the debt would be less." Systems that function well in the West become distorted when modified and transplanted to China by the CCP. In Red China, with connections between officials and businessmen or local protection, debtors can evade blacklists or enforcement through asset transfers, sham lawsuits, and cultivating relationships. Those with extensive networks have numerous ways to exploit loopholes and still make a fortune and live their lives. However, ordinary creditors face extreme difficulty in recovering their debts, and court enforcement rates have long been low. Some creditors will never recover their money. As for the debts owed to banks becoming bad debts, this is also part of China's systemic financial crisis. For example, the man in the video, a few years ago he was in the renovation and building materials industry, and in 2018 his net worth was $6 million. Later, he advanced over $1 million to take on a high-end renovation project for a shopping mall owned by a leading enterprise in his province, worth approximately $1.5 billion. However, after the work was completed and the mall opened on schedule, the client delayed payment, causing his renovation company's cash flow to dry up. He posted on Douyin to defend his rights, but was sued and ultimately sentenced to 2 years in prison for disturbing public order. His company went bankrupt and he was left with approximately $740,000 in debt. To do this job, I advanced over $1 million. The company's cash flow immediately collapsed. At that time, I thought such a big company wouldn't default on its payments. It wasn't until a year or two later that I realized they weren't settling accounts. They were just delaying. Of the $2.66 million job, they barely paid $1.18 million. I even put in $1 million myself. This netizen sold his home to invest in stocks, lost all his savings, and was left with hundreds of thousands in debt, plus midlife unemployment. He said his life was over. Brothers, I feel like my life is over. I lost nearly $140,000 in stocks and futures. All my savings are gone, and I owe hundreds of thousands of yuan more. I have no courage to face my family anymore. In 2025, I listened to my family and sold the home, which paid off the mortgage, leaving me with hundreds of thousands of yuan. I felt it was a waste to leave the money idle, so I took some out to invest in stocks. But I lost more than $50,000 in stocks. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to give my family money when they needed it to buy a smaller home. Then I saw that futures could recover losses faster, and I saw that some people could make millions of yuan a month. So I took the rest of the money to invest in futures. More and more middle-class people are falling back into poverty. I work as a loan broker and have come into contact with too many clients who have failed in their businesses. They used to be worth 5 million or 10 million yuan or more, but now they are heavily in debt. Leaving aside real estate and other immovable assets, liquid assets better reflect true financial strength. Let's take Shanghai, China's wealthiest city, as an example. Some self-media calculations show a huge disparity in Shanghai households' liquid assets. The bottom 80% of households have only $43,000 in net liquid assets, while the top 20% have $810,000, a gap of nearly 19 times. Shanghai's deposit density far exceeds the national average, but the average short-term debt of low-income groups is even higher. Faced with a massive group of individuals burdened with personal debt, the Chinese government has strengthened financial regulation while simultaneously launching billions of yuan in fiscal subsidies and macroeconomic control measures aimed at stimulating consumption. For example, various consumer loan subsidies for automobiles and home appliances have been introduced in an attempt to revitalize domestic demand. However, data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that in May 2024, total retail sales of consumer goods fell by 0.6% year-on-year, the first monthly decline since December 2022. These policies have been largely ineffective, failing to create even a ripple. The lack of success stems from the fact that China's economy has fallen into a balance sheet recession trap. When public expectations for future income plummet and the risks of layoff and pay cuts looms, the national choice for individuals is to pay off debts rather than consume. For consumers, the pain point isn't the high cost of financing, but rather whether they have money on hand and whether they'll have a job tomorrow. Ironically, government subsidies typically have credit thresholds, often only flowing to those with good credit. Meanwhile, the 110 million truly indebted individuals at the bottom of society, desperately needing cash flow, are unable to cross these thresholds to receive subsidies, thus hindering large-scale consumption. There is a severe mismatch between supply and demand in policy. Over the past 3 decades, China's economy has experienced rapid growth. Precisely because of this, in an environment where information is often blocked or even manipulated by the government, many Chinese who have entered the middle and even affluent classes lack a keen awareness of risk, falling into one debt trap after another. When these former entrepreneurs and the middle class lose their normal living space, the common practice of Chinese financial institutions to pre-collect loans often becomes the final straw that breaks the camel's back. Countless ruthless debt collection companies sprang up, resorting to violence and relentlessly harassing debtors' friends and family. Under the CCP system, instead of helping them escape, their plight has worsened. Many have gone to the rooftops of tall buildings or high bridges. He passed away last year because of this pressure and such a huge debt. I'm left with 9 million in debt, so I'm under a lot of pressure too. That's why I'm selling the home. Where will you all live when you sell it? I'm not thinking about that anymore. Renting is fine too. I'll pay back the money I owe others first. The woman in the video was urgently selling her last condo. Her husband, with nearly 9 million in debt, passed away due to the immense debt pressure, leaving his wife alone to face it all. These houses of yours are worth at least 14 million. How could you just sell them like that? I owed over 14 million, but things are a little better now. However, I only have one home left. How much do you owe now? 9 million. 600 million you once had. How could it just disappear like that? In 2010, in Xiamen, over 140 freezers were lost due to a hygiene certificate issue. That amounted to tens of millions of yuan. Each freezer cost $44,000, a fact well known in the refrigeration industry. Similar incidents are common. In 2014 in Hong Kong, we lost $3 million because of the same issue. In 2015 in Vietnam, 143 freezers were affected. The number 143 is very unlucky. Late fees amounted to $680,000. The freezers couldn't be back. 6 million was gone. Over 14 million was gone very easily. So, how did the $9 million debt come about? He was fixated on this industry, hoping to turn his fortunes around. However, business became increasingly difficult, resulting in continuous losses. Unwilling to accept defeat, he took out more loans. When e-commerce was booming, he invested again, swayed by friends, losing $3 million. Despite widespread concern about the accumulation of bad debt risks, online lending remains a core monetization channel for digital payment and short video giants in China. Against the backdrop of a sluggish advertising market, online lending is one of the few rigid businesses capable of converting massive traffic into stable cash flow. More covert is the exploitation of algorithmic precision harvesting by tech giants. Big data automatically filters out vulnerable individuals who are already heavily indebted but still have limited repayment capacity and weaknesses, then targets them with high-frequency, precise lending. Many naive and vulnerable young people have become the targets of this unbridled capital hunt. On June 11th of this year, a short video circulated on Chinese social media platforms. In the video, the man said that after their child turned 18, he would use the child's identity to apply for credit cards and deliberately cause overdue payments, thus preventing the child from applying for online loans or bank loans for several years. If my child ever turns 18, I'll immediately put him on the blacklist. I've been helping with loans for so many years, I know all too well. As soon as he turns 18, I'll get him a credit card, let him spend $50, and then delay paying it back for 7 months. That'll immediately put a 7 on his credit report and he'll be blacklisted. Let me tell you the truth, I have a client about 25 or 26 years old who just got married. The condo is in his name, but has been mortgaged to his mother for $450,000. His mother bought the condo. She told me, if I hadn't mortgaged it in my name, I don't know what he would have done with the property. How do I know? Because my son came to us with the condo. So many young people like this, not wanting a loan themselves, but already being targeted. A college graduate not yet working with no money in his pocket, how happy he must be to get a $3,000 loan. His monthly living expenses are only $150. Can he control himself? This shows that many parents in China have lost faith in government oversight, and they resort to extreme measures to protect their children from falling into debt traps. Yes, in contemporary China, to protect yourself, to protect your family, you can still find ways, provided you don't believe the information fed to you by the CCP. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.